Welcome into the Maine Take, everyone. My name's Evan, here with Chris. Sports talk straight from the 207. Today we're going to start off with the heel points. We discussed some of this tournament stuff last week, and we kind of were struggling about, kind of understanding how some of this works. Not struggling necessarily, but not fully understanding it. So I got from the MPA, all right, the how heel points work, and they work in two steps. Okay, so you have your preliminary index, right? So this is straight from the website. All right, this is computed by assigning 42 points to AA class. So they assign points per team based off of your class, right? So AA gets 42. If you're in class A, you get 40, 38 for class B, 36 for class C, 34 for class D.
I have never heard of a AA team in the state of Maine.
Yeah, well, that's down south.
Okay.
We don't deal with those.
All right.
But so you take these points, right? And so these points are added, and then the total is divided by the number of scheduled games. In all cases, a minimum divisor is established by the appropriate sports committee. A team with no victories is assigned a preliminary index of 1. So example, right, if a school has 2 victories over a class B school, right, 2 victories over C and then a D, right, you'd add the class B totals, so 38, 38, right, 36, 36, 34, and so on,
Right.
and then you divide it by the total number of games.
Okay.
Right, and that's their preliminary index.
All right.
Then you have your tournament index, okay? So tournament index for the team is used as an example would be determined by adding the preliminary indices from the schools in which it had defeated, right? So this total would be divided by the number of games on the schedule, most cases 18. So if 2 B schools had a 33 preliminary indices of 8 and 5, and 2 C schools had 6 and 5.4, and 2 D schools had 4.4 and 4.2, the total of these would be 33. This 33 would be divided by 18 games, right? Come out about 1.8, right? So basically, you take the total of all of their indices and then you divide it. So it's a little complicated to me personally.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why,
I mean, it takes into account strength of schedule, and then the strength of the so-called school you should be facing, right? So if a team, for example, should be winning a lot, right? You get the points from, well, I say quote should be based off the class they're in, right? So if you're a class B school and you're facing a class A school, right, you're gonna get a couple extra points based off of who you're playing. But if they haven't done well, I don't think you're gonna get as many points on for beating them as you would maybe for a team that has done well. And that's what it seems to me. I'm 99% sure I'm reading this right.
I think all sports should just run off wins, losses, and point differentials on ties. It's just so much easier.
Yeah.
And then if the point differential is somewhat tied, that's when you get into the, home wins or away wins or however you want to do it from there. But this is a mess. This is a mess.
That's not even the best part. I'm sorry to interrupt, but they also multiply the final tournament index by 10. For what reason, I'm not entirely sure, because if everything's multiplied by 10, then
it's all just going to even out anyway, right?
It's just a...
That's so... It's so obnoxious, complicated stuff like that.
It could be easier. It definitely could be. I wanted to kind of find out why they do it this way. And I remember playing in the, in the systems. We talked about this, right? Depending on how another team did and who they played, their heel points, and what would happen. It just, I didn't pay attention to it much when I was in school because it didn't really matter to me. I mean, we just go out and win. That's kind of what mattered, right? But it is interesting to look at it. I don't know. That's the
Webster Dictionary definition. Ripped it dead from the website.
You guys want to look it up? It's on MPA. You just look up heel points and how they work. It'll pop right up. It's not hard to find. It is hard to understand though. So. At least I think, I agree. It could definitely be easier. In the world of local sports, we're gonna kind of look at lacrosse today for Maine. We got Class A boys, and we're going to go through some of the standings, just the top couple teams. We got Falmouth 7-0, Thornton Academy 4-1, South Portland 4-2, and Cape Elizabeth is at 3-4. Those are your top four teams for Class A boys. I will say Falmouth has been in the mix pretty much the last couple of years, and if I'm not mistaken, actually, let me just double check here, but I believe they won last year as well, which would make sense considering that, they're at the top. Yes, they did. They actually beat Cape Elizabeth last year, so 18-5.
Wow, I don't know how.
I was gonna say, so
how is it like? I don't, lacrosse is
so if we look through the standings from last year through the playoffs, right? You're looking at this 19-7, 14-1,
right,
21-6, right? So I think scoring in lacrosse is can be a little bit higher. The goals that are scored definitely more than baseball.
Interesting.
Class A girls, you got Cheverus at 6-1, Marshwood at 6-0, Falmouth at 4-3, Thornton Academy at 5-1, and then Kennebunk at 5-0. Very interesting.
I think sports like lacrosse. Now, this isn't a knock on the athletes that play it at all. I think sports like lacrosse, when you look at a team like Falmouth, it's easier to kind of build what would be termed as a dynasty in sports like that than it would be in sports like basketball or football, right? Like, I think of, I graduated from Skowhegan, and the Skowhegan field hockey team were in the finals all but 1 year for like 20 years straight.
Yeah.
It's not like Skowhegan is actively putting out, they are, but it's not, the players that come play aren't actively just better naturally. It's the system that they're a part of. Like, I know, like, I graduated with 10 girls, that played field hockey in college. One of them went to a small D1 school that I can't remember. Most of them went to D2s. I mean, I don't spend my time thinking about the girls that I graduated with and what college they went to, but like, I am aware that they committed to these colleges and played field hockey there. And when you're in a program like Falmouth, obviously professional, if there's a professional lacrosse league, I don't know about it. Same thing with field hockey. If there's a professional field hockey league, I don't know about it. But when you're in a system like that and you can be good all the time, and naturally more schools are going to look at you because that team is good all the time. I mean, these kids have a way through college, even if they don't get a full scholarship and get a partial one, and then you got 4 years and you can keep playing the sport that you love. Right. And I think that's sick.
No, that's great.
It's a good situation that Falmouth's in if they've got a team like that's that good.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Class B, even another two, actually, specifically two programs that have been in the finals and in the final. Yarmouth and York have been in the finals the last 4 years.
Against each other.
At least semis for York.
Oh, okay.
Yarmouth has been, I think, in the finals almost the last 4 years, if I'm not mistaken.
And that's another situation where you're in a really good program. It's not like I said, these people aren't more naturally gifted athletes. They are coached into that position, and that's, obviously everybody knows coaching is very important, but I just think, you have more athletes that are more likely to be naturally gifted in your other sports like football and basketball, and sometimes geography matters, but like, odds are you're going to have, in the state of Maine, you're going to have somebody that's more naturally gifted at football more likely to go to a school like Portland, somewhere down south, than a central Maine school. You don't really get that often with lacrosse and like field hockey and sports like that. And that's not a knock. I think that's awesome. It really shows the coaching in the environment around them to be able to give these kids a spot, a chance to play in a very good I don't want to say organization, but in a very good environment on a very good team.
Yeah,
and
a
potentially
good program.
Program, right? That's the word I was looking for, and potentially give them a way through school and a chance to keep playing. So I think that's awesome.
Yarmouth made the finals with York last year and beat them. York made it past Yarmouth in the semis and beat Messalonsky, but they both have been to the semis the last 4 or 5 years.
Okay, so the playoffs in lacrosse aren't split up by.
No, so there is no region.
So they just it's lacrosse. Just one. Okay, yeah, it's just, and so it's seeding.
So it's Class A, Class B, Class C, and that's just
there's no North and South. Okay, no, cool.
And I don't know if that's because of the lack of teams. Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm that's what I'm assuming. So I mean, lacrosse is a smaller sport, especially in Maine.
I almost think, and I mean, this is probably going to make sense to a lot of people outside of Maine. But if anybody's listening to this from Maine, especially an athlete, they might not agree with me. I almost think every sport should do that. You know, we're in a situation where, for example, most of the schools around us, except for Waterville, because they do the 8-man football, I think.
Yeah, they don't do regular anymore.
We have 8-man football in Maine because, team size. But like Class B, for example, that's like your Lawrence, your Missalonsky, your Skowhegans. Most of the time, not all of the time, just recently Skowhegan, my alma mater, a few years ago, won the state championship. Most of the time, the team that gets through the Class B South, are we Class B North in this?
It depends on the
school.
Just
reclassed it. They just re-regioned it. But
because Waterville used to be Class A, they were Class B when I went through school.
Right.
Some of their sports are Class C now.
Right. Yeah. So they just recently went through a whole thing. But for example, the team that comes out of the region of Lawrence, and now that I'm saying it out loud, it's Class B North, and I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Class B North, your Lawrence, your Skowhegans, your Missos, those teams, most of the time, not all the time, are playing for second place because the teams in Class B South are so much. Your Marshwoods are so much better than these guys. And so I almost think you want to give these kids a chance to go play. The Class B North kids deserve a chance to try to make it there. But if you're in a situation where, it's region dominated, the South is better than the North, just get rid of the regions and let the seeding take place.
Yeah, and then you can maybe even do some reclassifications, right? So if you have such a dominant southern part of the state, right? If you get rid of the regions, right? Like lacrosse doesn't have any regions; they just do it by class, and then class people appropriately. Then there might be more fair play, right?
Right.
Like if a team, if the South keeps dominating against the North in Class B, then maybe they shouldn't be competing in the same level because obviously it's just they're playing for second place.
Right. Absolutely. And I think, and I'm not trying to say that. I know I said I think all of it should be like this, but that was kind of like a blanket statement. I think the system's good. Like I said, you give all these kids a chance to play, for a state championship, and I think that's cool. But as you said, if you get rid of that, if you get rid of the regions, you're going to find that some of those Class B teams might have to move down a class because they're not competitive in Class B anymore because there's no regions. And
right, and it might be like a situation where people don't like that at first, but then you come to realize if they became competitive in the North, they're still going to get smacked by a team in the South, and that's not always the case, like you said. But
and look at these other sports like lacrosse, and I don't know if field hockey has North and South, but we were just talking about how sports like that, coaching becomes so much more important. When it comes to shaping it, and I'm not saying that some coaches are better than others. Or football coaches are worse than field hockey coaches. It's not what I'm saying. If you get rid of that, you are going to do nothing but force all of the programs in the weaker region to get better, to stay up. Like the coaches have to change something.
Right.
Man, Lawrence, congratulations. You've made a run and gotten to the Class B finals so much. Like, I know kids that were on teams that went to the Class B finals and lost. I know kids that went to the state championship and lost from Lawrence. I work with some of them. My neighbor was one of them. Congratulations, you make it there. You're playing for second place because your team's not good enough. Your team is not good enough to beat the team in the South, and the coaches haven't changed anything because if they did, maybe you'd have a state championship outside of the one that you won almost 20 years ago. Your last one was 2009. You got to change something. Maybe the wing tee ain't it. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe.
Wing T ain't it. Maybe. It's just an idea. I know my boy Parker Higgins. I work with Parker. One of the best running backs in the state of Maine. His senior year, my homeboy averaged like, I think he told me one time, and I looked at his stats too. He averaged like 215 yards a game. Guy was a dog. Congratulations. When you only run wing T, which is a strictly, you got your offensive line, you have 2 wing backs, the quarterback and the running back, and that's it. When you run that, what are you going to do when you're down 2 touchdowns, which is exactly what happened in the state championship game? You can't do anything. You built your entire offense off the run. You've got 4 or 5 waggle plays that you're going to be able, bootleg plays. Congratulations. You just lost the state championship in 2 quarters because you can't throw the football because you run the wing T. Change something. Get better. That's the point.
Agreed. I remember actually when they went. We have Yarmouth and Kennebunk at 6-0. York and Messalonsky at 4-1, 4-2 respectively, and then Freeport at 4-2.
It's Class B, right?
Yeah, it's Class B
Okay.
boys. Your girls, Class A. Did I say girls already? I feel like I did do girls A. I did. Girls B. I apologize.
No, yeah.
We got Freeport at 6-0, Coney at 5-1, Mount Ararat 6-0, Brunswick at 4-4, and Gardner at 3-3. Interestingly enough, wow, I'm actually surprised. Greeley is not in there for girls,
Mm-hmm.
and they've won the Class B 3 years in a row.
Yeah, sometimes your seniors graduate and you stink. That's
Maybe.
that's high school and college sports. Sometimes your seniors graduate and you stink for a few years.
Yeah, they're not even the top 7.
That happens.
8.
Maybe a coaching change. Who knows?
All right. That's our highlight for this week for standings recaps for lacrosse. Interesting stuff. It is. I didn't know until we looked into this that they didn't do the region thing. I kind of like it. I kind of like the way that looks for tournaments. I think that it works well. We wanted to take a second to highlight some other individual players. For me, one in particular, Garrick Donnelly from Greeley, right?
I assume so.
I
Yeah.
assume so. Yeah.
Is that what we were talking about yesterday?
Yeah.
Then
But
yes, really.
I put his name down
And didn't put his school.
I didn't put his
I've
school
been
down.
victim to
He's
that.
with Keeler Vote.
Yeah, Keeler Vote, Keeler Vought. I don't. However it's pronounced.
Someone correct us on this. So
Come on the show.
come on the show. I put him down, right? So we talked about I'm gonna call him Keeler last time, right?
Mhm.
His 44 Ks in the amount of innings he's pitched. He's
0.3 ERA.
0.3 ERA, dominant season so far. Greeley is 6-0 as of yesterday. The standings. Excuse me. But that's not just because of him. And I wanted to kind of point that out, that this team has a very good rotation. Garrick Donnelly has a ERA of 1.5. He's thrown 18 innings and 21 Ks. Okay, so he's also averaging over a K an inning, and his opposing batting average is 191. Right? So, I mean, you have a 1-2 punch with those kids that it's just, electric. Almost 70 Ks in the last 6 games.
Right. And how
7 games.
and how Maine baseball works, you don't have a deep rotation and a deep bullpen, right? So congratulations. So you're facing Keeler and you light him up. Congratulations, you light him up. Now you got to face this kid.
Exactly.
They're going to pull him in. They play 1 or 2 games a week, maybe 3. They're going to pull this kid in, and obviously there's some other pitchers on the roster, but if it's a big region game, if it's a playoff game,
oh yeah,
you lit up Keeler, that's cool, or you lit up Brendan, that's cool. Here comes the other guy. Now come face him, Garrick. Oh, I thought it was Garrett. My bad.
No, you get Garrick. Yeah, and as someone who's played in the state, that is how the rotations typically work, right? You have your 1 and your 2, and then you have a 3 that, like, depending on the week, you use them or not, because sometimes
Right.
you only have 2 games. And then from what they seem to be doing, actually, like you said, Keeler has pitched every game, so they're rotating it a little differently, where they're not going like a strong start, try to throw the whole game if you can. They're going more of like a, I go for a while and then we're going to be willing to pull you and use you at other points of the week. If they can manage to get through the week with these two with a couple of throw-ins, not saying that their third pitcher isn't good or not, but I mean, you can rock with these two. You're going to go far into the playoffs, especially in Maine.
Absolutely.
But yeah, so that's our individual recap. What do we got next?
Breaking news, not really breaking news. The news broke a few hours ago, and by the time this is up, it's going to kind of probably be old news. It's going up later today or early tomorrow morning. Derek Carr retires from the NFL.
11 years.
11 years. So I put down his stats. It's very interesting. One of the things I wanted to touch on, quickly, is what is Derek Carr's legacy? We don't, obviously he's only been to the playoffs once and lost. Lost the one playoff game that he appeared in.
Who was that too?
It was the AFC wildcard game that year that they beat the Chargers when everybody was, tie so you guys can both make the playoffs. I can't recall who they faced.
Yes,
but it was
I remember that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So I did put this down. I put down that I think his legacy is underrated. That's the only word I could come up with. Because here's something you probably didn't know. Derek Carr has 41,245 passing yards, good for 22nd all-time.
Actually?
Yes. And conveniently enough, at 257 career touchdowns, he's also good for 22nd all-time.
Wow.
And he's got 112 interceptions. So, we're talking 257 touchdowns to 112 picks, 4 Pro Bowls. He's underrated. I didn't know when I saw that he had 41,000 yards. I was like, that's a lot. I'm gonna look that up, and I saw he was 22nd. I said, my goodness.
Yeah, he's averaging 11 seasons, 41,000.
Really?
That's almost.
That's like 3,800 yards a season. That's just quick math. Math wasn't my strong suit, but
right about there.
So that's Derek Carr, man. I think at his peak, knocking on the door of a top 10 quarterback, but he never really got over that hump.
No.
Unfortunately. However, the one thing I'm interested in is to see what the Saints quarterback room is going to look like. Obviously, they have Tyler Show. They just drafted him in the second round. Spencer Radler's entering his second year. Jake Hayner is entering his third year. Technically, Taysom Hill's on the roster, and technically, Taysom Hill's kind of a quarterback.
Not used.
Kind of listed as a tight end, I think, on like most fantasy sports apps,
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? I don't know. The first thing that popped in my head was, well, regardless of who's going to start, they need a veteran quarterback in that locker room. So I wrote down names of everybody I know that maybe could be a good look, and maybe that would fit. I put down a guy like Flacco, but not Flacco, because the Browns need him in that room. Yeah. And then I started writing down guys as Andy Dalton. The Panthers are going to need him behind Bryce Young. Every team, I think, if you have a young quarterback, needs a good veteran.
Yeah.
Right, to kind of keep him grounded. Tyrod Taylor, he's on the Jets now. Are the Jets comfortable enough with Justin Fields to maybe let Tyrod Taylor go? Like through a trade? I don't know. Case Keenum on the Bears. They need a veteran presence behind Caleb Williams. Jacoby Brissett on the Cards. Kyler Murray's been in the league for a few years. Maybe you don't need him. Maybe you do. Taylor Heineke on the Chargers. There's just I know Taylor Heineke only started for a little bit, but Taylor Heineke also brought the fight to Tom Brady in a playoff game.
Yeah. And it's a veteran presence.
That's all you need.
You don't really even need a starter. You need someone who has been in the league for a while.
And it's not necessarily a gameplay thing. It is a maturity thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. I know Justin Herbert's been in the league for a few years. Maybe they don't need Heineke over there. And it's all circumstantial. The only way they get any of these guys I listed is if they're willing to trade, which they probably wouldn't be, or if they get released, and they probably won't be.
Yeah, no, I don't see all those people they need to, except maybe Brissett. You might be able to. Kyler Murray, if he doesn't play as much Call of Duty this year.
Yeah, maybe a Josh Dobbs.
Is he signed?
I don't know. I'm just thinking of names right now.
Actually, isn't he on the? Hold on, I'm gonna look this up real quick.
Maybe Yeah, maybe a Josh Dobbs. Maybe you call somebody, try to get them out of retirement. Hey, Matt Moore. I don't even know if Matt Moore is officially retired yet. Hey, Matt Moore, come to the squad. Come say, hey, Nick Foles, I don't even want you to play. Just come. Matt Ryan, just get, obviously, Phillip Rivers. No, just,
Phillip Rivers.
I'm not saying, go out and try to get these guys, but you need, even if they're not going to start, even if they're QB4 or QB3, you need a veteran guy in that locker room
Dobbs
to hold
is
it
on
down.
the Patriots.
Dobbs is a Pat. He's a Pat. So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Do you think that based off of this happening that they should have gone about the draft differently, or
no?
No,
they got their guy.
They got their guy.
Obviously, you'd think obviously you probably want Cam Ward ahead of Tyler Show. You'd probably want Jackson Dart ahead of Tyler Show. Clearly, they didn't have Shedeur Sanders ahead of him because they passed on him 4 times, but they got their guy, and I'm sure they're comfortable with that. Maybe free agency's approached a little bit different this year.
Yeah, it'll be weird.
Maybe there's a guy still on the market. I know, like, the big free agency's over, but maybe there's a guy that I don't know. Maybe like a Brian Hoyer. Maybe he hasn't announced his. Go get AJ McCarron. Is he still in the UFL? If he's still in the UFL, if he's not, he was a Bengal forever. I don't know, but you got to go out and get somebody. Man, sign Tim Tebow, man. Get a good locker room guy back there. I don't care what you do, but, your oldest quarterback has only been in the league for 3 years, which means he's probably at least, at the most, 26, unless he was a 5 or 6 year redshirt senior. He's 26. He's been in the league for 3 years. You need a guy. Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore was, he was a quarterback. Maybe he's going to, as the head coach, maybe he's going to kind of take a little veteran presence room in there. I don't know. It's very interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think that they're going to. I don't think that they're going to trade for any veteran presence.
Why would you? You're
gonna
probably
going to
have a bad team.
Right, exactly. You're not going to compete, right? Now, for developmental purposes, you're going to want someone to come in and help. Obviously, in my opinion, it's not worth, and like you said, not worth giving up draft capital for that, or really even players. It's definitely a tough situation. They kind of left them with a. I'm surprised that they weren't like, hey, you don't need to play or whatever, but just like stay on and help. Which they might offer him the option to do.
Like a QB guy.
Yeah, QB coach kind of. Because even if you get someone in there in that aspect that's like has experience, it's just weird. I'm
surprised nobody asked Andrew Luck to do that before he became. Yeah. I don't know what his position is with Stanford. I think he's a GM of sorts, but I saw him taking snaps, doing reps with the kids at Stanford. So. Stanford, not Stamford, my bad. Stanford. So I don't know. You got to get Andrew Luck would be a good guy in that spot anyway. Super intelligent guy.
Has Darnold signed with anyone?
Sam Darnold is the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
Why does it have him listed as a free agent?
That's a really good question, but Sam Darnold is the starting quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks.
That's right. No, I remember.
Unless Sam Howell is a dog. I don't even know if Sam Howell's still on the squad over there. I don't know. But anyway, so just a quick little NFL recap. That happened. Evan texted me while I was in class, and he said, Derek Carr just retired. We got to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
So.
That was a signing. Yeah, it's weird.
Now, what we got? NBA playoffs.
Yes, sir. Celtics are currently playing at this point in time.
What's the score?
Score is 79 to 52.
Hey, we know them 20-point leads.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the last time this happened at this point in the game, actually, I texted Chris. I actually called you.
Yes,
I called you. I was in the car, and I was like, dude, it's game 2. I'm like, I am so happy right now. 20-point lead going into the 4th. Oh, my God, finally, we can, get going. By the end of the night, I was saying things that I can't repeat.
Yeah, I remember I was public enemy number 1 in the Applebee's that night because I don't ask how it happened, and maybe it was partly due to the fact that I was raised by my dad, the way I was. I have a very strong dislike at my core for all New England teams.
It's
Right,
crazy.
so I'm sitting in the Applebee's and I'm watching the Knicks come back, and I watch Jalen Brunson get his free throws. Let's not talk about that again. That stirred up some controversy, I think. But he got his 2 free throws to drop, and I remember thinking, oh my gosh, there's 12 seconds on the clock. Jason Tatum's bringing the ball up. There is no way that the Celtics don't win this game. It just doesn't make sense. Bang, Mikal Bridges gets the block. I'm losing my mind in the Applebee's, and there's like 8 dudes around the bar. They're just like turned their heads and started staring at me, But man, I mean, they're up by almost 30 now. The Knicks, if the Knicks don't take one game at home, the first 2 games don't matter.
No.
Right? The first 2 games will not matter if they don't take the first 2 at home.
If they pull a game, I would be slightly worried.
Well, I think I would be. You're down
anything
3-1.
can happen, right? That's not a situation where you want to be in, obviously.
Right.
They should have today. I'm gonna say it. I shouldn't say it.
Fingers
They
crossed
should
for all the
have
Celtics
today.
fans out there.
No, it was and to touch on it quickly again, it was just continuous 3-point shooting. The last 5 minutes of the game, I think they went 14 field goals in a row where they missed.
Oh yeah, I think
there was one on a fast break where I don't know if they blocked someone or it was just a bad layup. They got on a 4-on-3, 4-on-2 situation, and they took it was open, but a wide open corner 3 when they could have just drove the ball. Come on.
I remember the first time I talked to you when I got to the Applebee's. It was 7.5 minutes on a 21-2 run. Like over the last 7.5 minutes when I pulled up to the Applebee's, it was 21-2 run for the Knicks.
Yeah, dude called me and was like, "Hey, how's it going?"
I said, how are they making you feel now?
I was so angry. I had to go out and get baby stuff. Actually, I was at Walmart, so like I was walking through the store with my phone, like watching this happen with just disbelief. Which I shouldn't have disbelief at this point because it was like, oh, okay, well they're just throwing the game again.
Classic.
So yeah, it'll probably be 2-1 after today.
Yeah, here's hoping for you guys. The Nuggets are up 2-1. Nikola Jokic, 20 points, 16 rebounds, and an overtime thriller at home. As of May 10th, 2025. I feel like I have to preface that, as is the controversy that was recently stirred.
Yeah. For those of you who have watched it before, and they probably don't watch our long form content. They probably just watch the shorts. But we had some software stuff, so it took us a couple of days to get it. And then we scheduled the video. I scheduled the videos out later. I should have just put them all out in one day.
There's some controversy about people not dropping 2 games in a row when I made a comment about you can't drop 2 games in a row.
Well, now this is interesting, right? Because they took one at home. They took one away, right, from the Thunder, who should have had both at home. People would have thought they would have close near swept them based off of
Thunder in 5 or 6.
Yeah. So now, you go in, they don't play tonight, they play tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You go into tomorrow with 2-1 lead. If they can steal, I'm going to say steal because the Thunder should.
That's the preface of.
Yeah, the Thunder should be beating them by everyone's standard. So if
But they're home, though. The Nuggets are home. I guess it wouldn't really be stealing a game.
I think it'd be stealing the game based off the expectation of who they thought would have won.
Yeah, but it's Nikola Jokic. That's true. Expectations don't matter.
I had the Nuggets winning too, by the way.
I know. So,
so I'm thinking if they can take the next one, then we're looking at like I said, Nuggets in 6. I think it'll be interesting.
The Cavs take a game away at Indiana after dropping the first 2 at home, with Donovan Mitchell dropping 43 points.
Yeah,
that's what you need, and they, just like the Celtics, they need to win their next game too. You don't want to be down 3-1.
No.
Because look, if you go down 3-1, like if the Pacers and the Knicks, for example, if they take one of these games at MSG and they go back to the Garden, the TD Garden, not the Garden, but the TD Garden, and the Celtics win, congratulations, you got to come right back to MSG.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that situation. So you don't want to be down 3-1, period, but especially if you got to play game 5 away.
Yeah.
No,
and then the Warriors 1-1 with no Steph.
Yeah, Steph got hurt, and then he was out for game 2 and is, according to the last time I checked, out for game 3. And that changes everything. Obviously, when we made our predictions last episode, that's obviously barring injuries.
Yeah, right.
If Steph Curry's out tonight,
Yeah.
and the Wolves win, and then for some reason Steph Curry's out for game 4, like now you got to try to. I mean, yeah, Jimmy Butler's on the squad, Buddy Hield's on the squad, but let's be honest, Steph Curry's the guy. He's the guy that's going to keep this series close. His absence is going to be the difference maker.
There's going to be a lot more pressure on Butler, right?
Absolutely.
So he was able to come in, and his role was able to be more of, I don't want to say backup necessarily. I mean, obviously, I think everyone would say Steph's the best on that squad, but as far as, scoring. But he was able to not have that pressure that he had in Miami, where he had to be the guy to score.
Didn't he verbatim say, "Oh, I like being in Golden State because I can just give the ball to Steph"?
Yeah, he doesn't. It's not Jimmy Butler's job to carry the team. Now it is, and I think that'll be easier for him to do, based off the fact that he hasn't had to do it every night.
I think he can do it. I mean, we watched him do it with the Heat twice.
Yeah, but like I'm saying, like he had to do that every game.
Yeah.
Here, he hasn't had to do it. So he's had some rest. Probably hasn't been so hard on his body. And now he can kind of go in and hopefully hopefully to them, he does what he's supposed to do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, is there anything else you got for the NBA?
I don't think so. I think for predictions, if we're going to do just the next day's predictions, just to be interesting. Timberwolves, Warriors tonight without Steph. What do you think is going to happen?
I think the Timberwolves are going to win.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Edwards is going to drop 25 at least.
Oh, he should have 25 at least.
That's what he's averaging for the playoffs.
He should.
I'm cheating. That's what he's averaging for the playoffs.
He should have, over under 24 and a half. He should have 25. He needs to come out and be a little bit more explosive.
Right.
They talked about it in an interview with his coach. They asked him about expectations. Actually, it was very interesting because his coach just came out and was like, "Yeah, he needs to be better." And Anthony was like, "I don't know what he's talking about. I think I played well." But offensively, he hasn't really been that much of a threat, at least early game. I think he needs to come out with some more energy.
Well, yeah, and like I said, May 10th, 2025, before the Warriors have played.
Yes.
I think the Wolves are going to win tonight.
For tomorrow, for Sunday, May 11th, Cavaliers and Pacers. Who do you got?
I do think the Cavaliers are going to win Game 4.
Game 4?
Yeah, on the road I do.
All right. And I'm going to take the Pacers, actually.
Yeah, I don't see why you wouldn't.
I think that Halliburton has been otherworldly, and I think that if he can that team can continue, barring injuries, it'd be great. And then Denver and the Thunder tomorrow.
I mean,
it's a head scratcher. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm gonna go with the Thunder, and I think that's only because, they traded 1-1 in OKC. I think both teams are good enough to go 1-1 in Denver too. So I think I'm gonna go. The Thunder are gonna come out tomorrow and tie the series up at 2-2.
I'm gonna say I think the Nuggets will take a 3-1 lead. I know you don't.
I think you're wrong.
You can think I'm wrong all you want.
That doesn't mean I'm judging you just because I think you're wrong.
That's crazy.
Just so you know.
I will say, when they beat the Nuggets, though, I mean, they beat them by like 40 points.
They clapped them.
They slapped them.
They slapped
so
them.
bad.
That was a big one, by the way. That was part of the controversy we were talking about. I was like, the Thunder can't lose 2 at home. And of course, the short went up after they won.
And they killed them too.
They said, "Little bro, they won by 40." Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. I didn't know that. I can't tell. I can't read the future. But
yeah, that's all we get for NBA.
All right, I just want to do a quick little pitcher segment on the MLB. I wrote down 2 names. I'm gonna go the second name first because there's less, and I think the first name's got a cooler story. No, that's a mean thing to say, but I think the first one's going to be a lot cooler to talk about. I put Mackenzie Gore this season has exploded out of nowhere for the Washington Nationals. He's got a 3.33 ERA. Prior to this, his career ERA is 4.11. And currently, as of May 10th, 2025, he leads the entire MLB in strikeouts at 66 or 68. I didn't write down the strikeout number, but I know it's 66 or 68. And he has a 2.76 FIP, sorry. So having a lower FIP than ERA is so extremely rare, specifically in today's game, because of how prevalent the strikeout and the home run is. So he's pitching really, really well, obviously leading the league in strikeouts and having a 3.33 ERA. But that means, with his FIP being lower than that, that means that if everything else around him didn't exist, if it was him and the batter only, his ERA would be 2.76. That's what a FIP is. The FIP is a pitcher, I've explained it before. It's their strikeouts, it's walks, and it's home runs. It's the three true outcomes of baseball. So 2.76 is actually elite.
Yeah.
That's an elite FIP. So Mackenzie Gore, maybe on a Cy Young campaign, maybe. I know we're early on in the season, but could be.
It's
I know
a good start.
3.33 ERA compared to, you're in the NL, right? Last time I checked, Yamamoto had like a 0.9 ERA.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And then the second guy I had down was Chris Paddock, Minnesota Twins pitcher, former Padre. His best season so far was 2019, his rookie year for the Padres. He had a 3.33 ERA that season. He's had Tommy John in the past. In 2022, he was coming off Tommy John. And he's been riddled with injuries in Minnesota. He's got a 4.41 career ERA, and he's looking to turn the trajectory of his career around by continuing to stay healthy. Why I wrote him down: he has not yet, up until yesterday, faced a batter after the fifth inning. I don't know if he's on a pitch count limit. I don't know if he's on an inning limit, or if it's just the game today. Sometimes pitchers don't make it past the fifth inning anymore. Most, they don't.
Right.
It's not insane to see that. But he somehow managed to find a way to force his manager to let him come out for the sixth inning, and that's by going perfect through five.
He went perfect through 5.
Perfect through the first 5 innings. He ended up with 7.1 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 ERA, and 6 Ks. So a gem for the Minnesota Twins pitcher, Chris Paddock. And that is all I had. I was looking through the news, and I said, oh my gosh, Chris Paddock was perfect through 5. Haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah.
So, obviously we just want to see.
How many did he go?
What do you mean? He went 7.1.
7.1.
Yeah, innings pitched.
Did you say that? I must.
Yeah.
I must have missed it.
3 hits, 1 earned run, and 6 Ks.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, going past 5 in the modern MLB that's pretty good. I mean,
like,
if you can give 5, that's what people expect.
Yeah, and in quality starts, I think that there's a lot of stats that need to be rethought of. Quality starts is one of them. So that's 5 2/3 innings pitched with 3 or less runs.
2/3.
Yeah, 2/3. 5 and 2 outs. Yeah. That's considered a quality start. I think if you want to move it to 4 2/3 with 3 run ball or less, that would make sense to me.
I'd say just go 5. Personally,
yeah, you get through 5 too. That works too.
Yeah, it's just over half a game. I mean, that's what, like, and I've seen this before. Some teams have used like openers, right? You open like a reliever 1-2 innings maybe, and then you throw your starter out there, right? And then you get to 7 or 8, then you got a reliever. But when you start with a starter, if you can get through 5, that gives you a pitcher who comes in and then a reliever. If you can stay to 3, I mean, that's probably your better rotation. I mean, if you can have 2, that's even better. But
yeah, no one's shocked if somebody goes into the dugout after the 5th inning and doesn't come out for the 6th. That's just today's baseball.
Yeah.
So maybe change that around a little bit. Quality starts is one of my favorite stats. I know I have a lot of favorite stats, huh? No,
you do.
It's a really interesting stat because it's dying. It's a dying stat, just like the complete game is practically, except for a few outliers every year, and Nathan Eovaldi's done it already.
Right, and it makes it seem like it's such a crazy thing, right? Like
it is.
And it is, but
today it wasn't
right
100 years ago.
I know. But like when Eovaldi threw his, we both were like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
and this early too in the season, it's crazy.
No, absolutely. So I don't know. Maybe switch it around a little bit. I like quality starts. I like knowing when a pitcher goes out and is effective. 5 2/3, 3 runs or less, like Evan said. Maybe 4 2/3 kind of a little wonky. Maybe just make it 5.
Hey, make it even number.
And maybe even in today's high-powered offense, maybe it's 5 innings pitched and 4 run ball. Probably not. Just keep it 3. I was gonna say, because a 4 ERA is not good. I mean, it's not bad, but like a lot of your good ERAs are low 3s. So
Something you want, that's for sure.
I would say anything under 3 is elite, like great to elite. So so maybe not 4. Keep it 3. I'm wrong.
You should talk to the Red Sox execs about that and have them figure out how to get a pitcher that has a under 4 ERA for our third, fourth, fifth guy.
Yeah, but that's hard. It's not.
No, it's not.
It's not easy to go out and just have a third or fourth or fifth guy under a 4 ERA. Like, we're talking the best pitching staff of all time. If your fourth guy or your fifth guy has less than a 4 ERA, even your fourth guy.
Fifth is asking for a lot, right?
I think
your third should be there. I mean, come on.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it just takes money.
Sure, but why would you do that when you can throw a guy out there for 4 or 5 innings and then have a reliever that shuts people down come out for 2?
Right, and within those 4 or 5 innings, you give up 10 runs. You're not like blow the game.
The Rangers, where you got Tyler Mahle, who's got a like a 2-something ERA, an Eovaldi, a DeGrom. You don't or you're not the Mariners, where they have Luis Castillo, Brian Wu. You're not. I mean, we're talking about the best pitching staffs of all time with a fourth guy under a 4 ERA. I mean, it should logically, it should be attainable, and that should be something you shoot for, obviously. Legibly. I think I used that word incorrectly.
I like that. Legibly. Yes, logically, it should be attainable, and I think that you can. I'm trying to pull it up. It's not good, dude.
Legibly is an adverb meaning in a way that is easily read or deciphered. So I kind of used it wrong, kind of did not. It should easily decipherably. That legibly, it should be easy to decipher the fact that it is logical to try to shoot for a guy that's got under a 4 ERA as a fourth guy.
That's great. Right. Okay. Ready? Here's the Red Sox rotation. I know we're going a little bit over time.
Please. I'm interested.
Garrett Crochet. All right. Great. Awesome. Number 1. Perfect. Tanner Houck. Then you have Walker Buehler, IL.
Oh, that's tough.
Brian Bayo. He's all right. He's been doing fine. Lucas Giolito, who just came off of an injury, I believe. Richard Fitz, IL. Cutter Crawford, IL.
Oh yeah, that is kind of crazy.
Like you're fielding a bullpen. The bullpen, you have Chapman, an older Chapman who put up 104 by the way the other night. He threw a 104-mile-an-hour fastball. Still cooking a little bit.
Good for him.
Gets
me fired up.
But you can't tell me that rotation is gonna go anywhere. Right, great. Assuming Crochet wins every. Let's just say he wins every game. Okay, mm-hmm. So you win 1 out of every 6 games or 5 games, right? And your number 2 is Tanner Houck.
Yeah, no, I
mean, give me a break.
Tanner Houck, who has a 6 ERA, by
dude,
the way.
he's awful. It's awful, and you know what? Maybe Brian Bayo has a better ERA, and they're not.
Brian Bayo's got a 2.01.
Yeah, okay, so they didn't throw these in order then.
You got Richard Fitz with a 3.18, Sean Newcomb with a 3.58, Walker Buehler IL with a 4.2. I mean, I just listed three or four pitchers.
Yeah, I guess
that are listed as starters. That doesn't mean they're starting in the rotation, but I understand what you mean.
Yeah. Oh, even with their ERA, being down low, that's great, and I know I was just complaining about it. But the Red Sox also lead the league in errors. So
errors?
Yes.
Oh, that's not good.
Yes. Well, and that's why, a lot of their, they give up a lot of runs in games and stuff, and they lose a lot of games, and a lot of it's bullpen. But,
right.
Those obviously don't show up for the pitchers. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't like it. I think they need to get another guy.
I mean, I think that, I believe that the Mariners have one of the best rotations, and they have 3 guys under 4. One of them has a 3.95. That's Luis Castillo. Brian Woo's got a 3.25. Logan Gilbert's got a 2.37. Bryce Miller's got a 4.15. It's not necessarily.
I mean, your first 4 guys are under 4.5 pretty much.
Yeah, but we were talking about under 4. I mean, I think that if you get to the 4th man in your rotation and he goes out and only lets up 4 runs, anywhere between 4 and 5 runs, in a league where 4 or 5 runs isn't an insurmountable, you could let up 5 runs and win in today's league.
That's true.
I don't think that's a bad thing, especially if you have a reliever that can come in and shut the door. So, but that's all I had. I don't know if you got anything to add.
That's pretty much it. Celtics are, just to give a quick update, 96-67.
How much time is left?
There are 1 minute left in the third. Yeah, shut up. They're gonna win.
Yeah,
that's a 32-point lead right now. Sorry, math. 29.
Jalen Brunson's dropping 30 in the 4th alone. That's a lie. I'm lying. He could. That's not impossible, but I'm joking.
Yeah, maybe if he flops every time he goes down the league.
It's drawing fouls. Every player in the league does it.
Yeah. We're going to agree to disagree.
I know there's at least 1 or 2 dudes in our comment section that agree with me.
Yeah, and there's multiple people that agree with me too.
Yeah. Well, it's a part of the game.
Getting fouled is a part of the game, yes, but faking fouls shouldn't be. It should be a tech, actually, and I'm pretty sure at one point, and it still is, I think by rule can be a tech. If you flop and they're like, nah,
again.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. How many compilations have you looked up or seen where people they get hit and then they're on the floor and they're like,
it doesn't bother. I mean, I understand why it would bother somebody. It doesn't. It makes sense to me if it's a part of the game.
Okay, so on one hand, I don't use it to your advantage. Sure,
right.
I don't like watching it. I think it's not a good product to watch personally. I think that having people shoot 20 free throws a night isn't a good product for the NBA.
You ever think, and this is like a rule in soccer, in a something that they teach, you ever think that maybe sometimes the flopping comes off of selling the foul that should be called?
Oh,
right? That's what they do in soccer.
I think that happens, but I also think that people sell things that aren't there. Like a great example, and this is not I'm not trying to be irritating about it, but this is something that players do. Well, they'll do what's called almost like a swim move, right? Where they'll try to move or hook around a player. But when they do it, they'll purposefully get in between their arm and their torso, and then they'll gather the ball around them and then jump up and flail like they just got hit when they literally just hooked the arm and pulled up for themselves. That
seems strategic to me.
Oh, it's strategic, sure. It's strategically deceptive.
That's 2.
Hey, that's not legible.
All right, listen. Okay. I'm a pro wrestling fan. Selling is everything. And if you're good at selling, I like you.
Oh, well, sure. They're great at selling because they get the call. But I'm just saying that I think it's sure. Good on you. You got the foul call.
That's
2. You can't say though that that's not scummy to purposefully manipulate a situation.
I am saying that that's not scummy. I'm saying it's a part of the game.
Nah.
And it's not scummy.
I mean, it is a part of the game. That's unfortunate.
You know what I mean?
Oh my goodness. I'm Evan here with Chris, the main take. See you next time.
We'll see you next time. You stole
I was
my
waiting
line.
for you to say it.
I thought you were saying something.